Welcome to this explainer. So picture this. Every single morning, millions of Americans start their day by popping a tiny white allergy pill. You might take it right before heading out the door for work, or maybe you give it to your kids before school. Honestly, it's as routine as brushing your teeth. You just expect that little pill to clear up your sneezing or those itchy eyes, mostly because we all know medicines are super rigorously regulated, right? But what if one of those pills wasn't exactly what the label said? What if your ordinary daily allergy pill was actually hiding a completely different drug inside? Well, that exact scenario is what kicked off a recent massive FDA recall. It specifically involves certain lots of generic cetirizine hydrochloride 5 milligram tablets. And the craziest part, the whole investigation was actually triggered by just one sharp-eyed pharmacy technician. They were looking at a batch of tablets that were supposed to be completely white and noticed something incredibly unusual: red pills mixed right in. I mean, talk about finding a needle in a haystack. Section 1. Inside the supply chain. How medicines are made. To really get to the bottom of this mystery, we've got to understand the insane level of precision that goes into making these pills. It all kicks off with the active pharmaceutical ingredient, or API, which in this case is the cetirizine. From there, inactive ingredients are added just to hold the pill together. Then, highly specialized equipment blends the formulas, massive machines compress that powder into tablets, and finally, scientists run some really rigorous lab testing. And here's the thing, literally one microscopic mistake anywhere in this 5-step process can affect millions of tablets. Precision isn't just important here, it's absolutely everything. So what happens when that precision actually fails? We get what's called cross-contamination. That's when traces of one product accidentally find their way into another, usually because the equipment just wasn't perfectly clean between production runs. In this specific recall, investigators figured out that the cetirizine might have been cross-contaminated with ranitidine, which is actually a medication used to treat heartburn. Basically, traces were just left behind in the factory equipment. Section 2, the trouble with ranitidine. Why this contamination matters. Now, you're probably wondering, why did a random heartburn medication set off such massive alarm bells? Well, it all comes down to a chemical called NDMA. That's short for N-nitrosodimethylamine. NDMA is a probable human carcinogen. That means laboratory studies suggest it could actually increase your risk of cancer after long-term exposure above acceptable limits. And the kicker is, back in 2019, scientists unexpectedly started detecting tiny amounts of this exact chemical inside ranitidine. Let's look at the timeline here. Before 2019, ranitidine, which you probably know better as Zantac, was an absolute blockbuster heartburn medication. People trusted it. But in 2019, independent labs figured out that NDMA could actually increase over time inside the drug, especially if it was stored at higher temperatures. By 2020, the FDA stepped in and completely withdrew all ranitidine products from the US market. It was honestly one of the most significant drug recalls in history, which brings us to today, an allergy medicine cross-contaminated with a drug that is literally banned from the US market. No wonder people were concerned. But hey, let's take a breath for a second. The absolutely crucial point to remember here is that this recall is about unexpected contamination. It is definitely not proof that every single recalled tablet is dangerous or full of high levels of NDMA. The FDA has never said every tablet contains ranitidine, just that contamination might have happened. But because ranitidine is an unapproved drug, even its mere presence inside another medication instantly triggers proactive regulatory action. Section 3. How safety systems work. Catching mistakes early. So, how do regulators and the pharmaceutical industry actually catch a microscopic mistake before millions of patients get hurt? It really boils down to something called CGMP, which stands for Current Good Manufacturing Practice. This is a super strict set of global standards that governs everything. We're talking equipment cleaning, employee training, lab testing, the whole shebang. The FDA enforces these standards through both scheduled and totally unannounced facility inspections. If they find violations, they can restrict manufacturing or demand recalls on the spot. But let's be real, the FDA can't be everywhere at once. The real magic is in the overlapping safety nets. You've got manufacturers monitoring production, labs testing samples, distributors tracking records, pharmacists inspecting products, and regulators analyzing data. They all work together. Think back to the very beginning of this explainer. It wasn't an FDA inspector who spotted that red pill. It was a local pharmacy technician who was just inspecting the products before dispensing them. This entire overlapping system worked flawlessly to stop a potential public health crisis right in its tracks. Section 4. What consumers must do. Actionable steps right now. When you see a headline screaming nationwide drug recall, it's super easy to panic. But let's look at the actual facts here. The affected products are highly specific lots of generic cetirizine, 5 milligram tablets. They were manufactured by unique pharmaceutical laboratories and distributed by Rising Pharma. Meanwhile, there are literally millions of other safe allergy medicines and brands sitting on store shelves right now. Just because it's an allergy medicine doesn't mean it's recalled. The risk here is incredibly narrow. So if you've got generic cetirizine in your medicine cabinet, here are your straightforward action steps. First, check the manufacturer on your bottle. Then, locate the lot number. Take that number and compare it with the official FDA notice online. If your specific product is recalled, stop taking it and follow their return instructions. But if it's not on the list, there is absolutely no reason to stop using it. And just to give you some peace of mind, at the time this recall was announced, there were exactly 0 adverse events reported. None. Oh, and a quick warning on this whole thing, you've got to get your info from trusted sources. During recalls, social media rumors spread like wildfire, way faster than verified facts. You might see a post claiming that all allergy medicines are suddenly unsafe. That is 100% false. Always rely on the FDA, your pharmacist, and your licensed healthcare providers, not internet panic. Section 5, the global picture, the hidden journey behind every pill. You know, this cetirizine situation is really about way more than just one medicine. It shines a light on the massive, hidden journey behind every single pill you take, and it tells us a lot about the state of global health. Think about it. Raw ingredients might be sourced in one country. The active ingredient is produced in a totally different one. Then the actual tablets are manufactured in a third facility. After all that comes global distribution and warehousing before it finally lands at your local pharmacy. Maintaining quality across thousands of miles and multiple companies, it requires intense digital traceability. Modern medicine is incredibly efficient, but as we can clearly see, it's also like a giant, vastly complex puzzle. And just to put that complexity into perspective, think about this number, 4 billion. We're talking over 4 billion prescriptions dispensed globally every single year. That's huge. When you think about that enormous volume, the extreme rarity of manufacturing recalls is actually incredibly comforting. Millions upon millions of prescriptions are used safely and effectively every single day without a single incident. Which brings us to this really powerful quote. A recall is not evidence that the system had failed. It is evidence that the system was actively monitoring product's quality. Finding a cross-contamination problem early on, way before widespread harm occurs, proves that those safety nets, from the factory floor all the way down to that observant pharmacy technician, are working exactly as intended. So I want to leave you with something to chew on. In a massive global system dispensing billions of pills across continents, how much do you trust the hidden journey of your medicine? Every single step of that journey exists for one main reason: to protect you, the patient. So stay informed, check those lot numbers, and remember that safety doesn't just end the day a medicine gets approved, it continues every single day. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking questions about the world around you.